I am Dr. Arshi, and in our series Rendezvous with Remedy, today we are going to see the remedy of Princess of Wales, Diana, which is Ignatia. Diana, the Princess of Wales story is a classic story of Ignatia, a young, vivacious, die-hard romantic girl who invested her emotions, her life into one person and committed to marriage with all her heart. Now, the idea of marriage, we need to understand what is marriage. It is a bond for life. And now, when Ignatia is into marriage, all she wants is love and a romantic kind of love, which means heightened emotions of ecstasy, love, which is explicit, expressive, in which one feels special, which may not be practical because Ignatia is an idealistic remedy. Her view of life is like her fairy tale, and her marriage was too. A fairy tale where a common girl marries a prince. Now, in such a kind of love, if there is disappointment or heartbreak, it has shattering effects. She feels a vow has been broken. It is not merely a promise which is lighter, and it is all right if one breaks a promise, but for her it is more than that. It is a vow, a commitment for life, and that is broken, which has a very bad effect on her. And this is how it began. The very next day of her marriage, she discovered a bracelet which was delivered by the jeweler. Now she was excited, presuming that it was a gift from her husband. She was astonished to find the letter C, which was for Camilla, inscribed on it. She was shocked, but keeping up with the reputation of the royal family and her strong sense of responsibility and righteousness, she stayed quiet, carrying the burden of grief in her heart, maintaining all is well on the outside, which is affectation, which means that it is a facade you put outside, that everything is all right, and inside there is lot of grief. All the cares, worries, emotions are quietly tucked away in her heart. Now, how was her life at the palace? It was empty. She longed for company of the family, which she never got. She kept brooding in silence. She soon developed bulimia, which is an eating disorder, which would keep eating and eating. At the end of it, she would vomit, and because it was an emotional expression of the emptiness inside, her mind was clearly unsettled, and all she wanted was to escape from such a life. Now, Prince Charles would encourage Diana to be friends with Camilla, and seeing her husband with the other lady, she would feel jealous. Now, and also, but she would not talk about it, and she felt helpless in the situation. Her mood would always be morose and sulky from all the pain in her heart, and her heart felt wounded. Her grief was prolonged and continuous, and no one took any measures to resolve it. She even spoke to the royal family about it, but no one did anything for her. In such a case, all she could think about was this matter. It kept moving in her heart, in her mind constantly, which is monomania. It occupied all her headspace, and this haunted her every moment, day and night. In cases of infidelity by husband, one believes that bearing a child would rekindle love and affection. But for Diana, it did not change anything. She had a difficult pregnancy. All the emotions of sadness, depression got heightened during pregnancy to the extent she tried to injure herself by slitting her wrists out of shame and embarrassment. She would have spells of involuntary weeping. She would weep very easily. No one understood her behavior, why she was doing all of this, but it was a very difficult time for her. Now, how long can one keep suffering like this in silence? One needs to adapt, to compensate, to move on. And Diana's adaptation was that of defiance. Tears things, clothing, destructiveness of clothing means that she let go or tore the veils or the veils of decorum or keeping the dirty secrets buried in the closet. She came all out, boisterous, outgoing, overtly social, with a feeling of despair. Despair, which essentially means that nothing else, she had no other escape. This was her form of escape, even in the situation. She even gave an interview, talked about troubles in her marriage. She was now disconcerted, which means that it was a completely reverse behavior. Earlier, she would not talk about it. Now she went all out, and talked about her troubles. She started living a life of abandon, as if trying to say to hell with everyone, even to the extent of having affairs with people, with all knowing that these affairs were not lasting, fleeting affairs. So, why is Diana remembered and loved till today, so many years after her death? It was because of her personality. She was beautiful inside out. She was graceful, always dressed impeccably. She had a good sense of style, and she was involved in many charitable and social activities. She was vivacious, extroverted, warm, humane, and would easily strike connection with anyone. She was intelligent, and her talk was lively. And most importantly, she was affectionate, sympathetic. She was a people's princess, and her life was so relatable with situations of so many women we encounter in our daily lives. Women who invest their life into relationships, taking care of the husband, the family, the children, and they don't have a life of their own. They invest all their emotional energy into relationships, give love wholeheartedly, taking care of all the needs of the family, big and small, sacrificing their desires, their expectations, and just to keep the family and the children happy. And then one day they encounter that startling disappointment. And that could be the children are gone, or so we know Ignatia for the empty nest syndrome, when the children are gone and there's nobody in the house anymore, and or the husband has an affair, or the in-laws don't care for her or don't value her. So all these things are matters that bring profound grief to Ignatia, because her view of life is romantic, ideal life where one gives without, but does not get anything in return. So this romantic fairy tale life collapses into a deep melancholy, a profound, a painful wound, an empty heart, yet they cover their hurt with a veil of dignity, put on a smile while the emptiness keeps eating them inside. This is a wonderful remedy which helps heal such wounds of these silent, stoic sufferers. So now, after we have seen the remedy, I'm sure we will be able to prescribe Ignatia more often, not only to women or ladies, but it could also be indicated for students. It is indicated for students who, after having some disappointment in their test, if they have invested, here the investment is the emotional, and the if you have studied a lot for a particular test and there is a disappointment there, or someone, or you have really invested in a relationship and the other person is harsh to you after reprimands. So these are, and the person then, Ignatia personality will not speak about it, will not talk about it, and will just keep all the hurt within, and go home and suffer from some kind of physical problems. So now, after seeing this remedy, I think we will be able to use it more often in our practice. Thank you.